So the third part is work while maximizing your wealth. That's the topic. And it starts off with 3 different chapters: how to use your career strategically and make the money, and finally get your side hustle on. So super exciting area overall, how to maximize your wealth. Anything you
Yeah.
want to add before we jump in, Guru, on this?
Yeah, I just want to say hi to everybody. And this is mostly about, your career and what you can do to maximize your wealth. Very interesting part of the book. And if we can start off, Kunal, can I ask you what you took away from chapter 10 of this
Yeah,
part 3 of this book? Think strategically about your career. Yeah.
yeah. I think building on the structured way in which this author has attached and attacked every
Mm-hmm.
problem, he now has a structured way to think about, should you join a big company or should you join a small company or a startup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's a frequent question people have. And then a lot of people think, where do you really make more money? Is it in a small company or a big company?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
should you be loyal in one place and stay around for like 10 years, or should you hop around? So these are the 3 biggest questions that he has put in structured thinking behind to help us understand and make our own choices. So
Mm-hmm.
those were the 3 areas. And so when it comes to joining a large company or a small company, um, he has used a formula in the chapter as well, which statistically just proved that, hey, 1 in 10 small companies would succeed. And then he has said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what is the payoff for year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4? And he has then calculated if you want to really maximize for the payoff, then
Mm-hmm.
joining a larger company, according to the author, is the right thing to do in terms of money payoff.
Mm-hmm.
Then people have this dilemma as to where would they learn the most.
Mm-hmm.
Would you learn more in a small company where you have um, lots of potential to take on lots of new tasks, or would you learn more in a larger company?
Yeah,
I have worked in a small company and I have worked in a large company. I feel it depends on your career journey, where you
exactly.
are. But if you are relatively fresh out of college, I highly think that you can learn the most in a large structured company, because you don't
Mm-hmm.
have any structured way to think about like what tools to use, what are the best practices. You don't have a
Exactly.
mentor, you don't have like stability of pay, you don't have so many things at a startup
Exactly.
where
Yeah.
you think you know things, but unless you know you are the startup-y person, I think the default answer is, large company. And
Yeah.
it's like, personally, there was this time when I was thinking, should I get married or should I not get married? And so, and I got a really good advice, which was, if you don't know, then you should get married. And so that's the default option. And so, same thing. If you don't know, small company or a large, big company, you should go to the big company and actually get the training and make them pay
Yeah.
you for the training that they give you. And, you know, in terms of how long you stay at a company, I feel you should stay at a company as long as you're learning. And at early
Yeah.
stage of your career, you should maximize for learning. If you find out you're not being challenged enough to
Yeah.
learn,
Yeah.
if you find
Yeah.
out that you are just coasting, meaning you are not doing anything and you're getting paid a lot of money, it
Yeah.
will feel good in the beginning, but it will hurt you the most
Yeah.
when you start looking
Absolutely.
for a job, or when they
Yeah.
expect you to have some experience behind your belt. You have things on your resume to say it, but you can't really
Yeah.
pull off your weight. So I feel as long as you're learning, you should stay at a company, and as long as they pay you more. There is a tendency for companies to not pay you market rate
Yeah.
when you stay there for long. The author calls it the loyalty discount. Where
Yeah.
if you stay around for too long, they're like, hey, this person's going nowhere. So
Yeah.
there could be that tendency. I don't quite agree with that. As long as you're doing great work, you're getting promoted every 2 or 3 years, then there is no way in hell that anyone else can actually beat you except new people at that role.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, I have been at a company for more than 12 years, the current company that I work at, and I have felt that they pay really well as long as you do great work.
That's
So
good.
there could be an opportunity for someone who's at the same level coming in fresh, and they'll get a better pay as a start. But keeping in mind the long term, I don't think that that could be, pretty bad against you if you stay long. As long as you're getting promoted and as long as you're learning, then you are on a fast track. So those are the three dilemmas, and those are some of my own opinions. What did you feel about that? Anything to add or change or modify or anything to challenge from this group?
No, I mostly agree with you. Whether a startup or a large scale company, it really depends. Like there are folks like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and Elon Musk who probably will do great in a startup environment, right? Where they are very clear, they have a vision, they want to execute that, right? That's the perfect world for them, the startup world. But I consider myself as an average or maybe above a little bit above average. So I would definitely prefer a structured, large-scale company where you highlighted all the trainings and the learnings you can get, all the mentors, right? So and the latest tools in tech that you could leverage and learn. I think that's the way to go. And again, in startups, there is a lot of paper money. They give you a lot of options, like in terms of stock options, that I call just vaporware. Um, just, you never know when it's going to materialize. It may not, like maybe 1 in 10, like the author calls out. Um, yeah, I mostly agree with you on that. Again, some of your audiences, folks who watch your channel, might be um, very perfectly fit for a startup environment. They know for perfectly, yeah, this is the mindset I have. This is the environment I want to be. It's very chaotic. But there is some pattern in that, and then you can learn a lot in the startup environment. But for most of the majority of the folks, I think the bigger companies work better. I agree with you, and mostly with the author. And about the loyalty discount, I partially agree. Yeah, like you said, if you do good work and you have good relationship with your peers and your bosses, and there's a good support network in the company, I think loyalty pays. But beyond a point, if you are just taken for granted and you're not appreciated for your skills, then yeah, of course, there's a heavy loyalty discount and you got to make a move. Um,
Yeah. Did you feel that way when you moved recently? You have more experience in this than me. I have been around, but did you feel that, oh my God, the previous employer, what's going on?
I was there for 6.5 years in my previous company. You know, when you're growing faster than your company in terms of personally and professionally, sometimes you outgrow your roles and the opportunities that your company can give you. That's what I hit after 6.5 years. I couldn't find any more challenging work. And like to one of the points you said, as long as you're learning and you're still marketable, then finding a job is easier and you can always be at peace. Like, yeah, I have the skills if I were to ever change the job. I was not picking up on those skills. There were not enough challenges. So it depends. Everybody's situation is different, right? So my situation was I was not getting enough challenges, so I had to move to another organization with these challenges that I was looking for. Yeah,
Nice. That's
yeah,
that's huge. And that's a great insight, right? Which is challenges and optimize for learning, right? Awesome.
yep,
Thanks. Let's get into the next chapter, yeah, which is
yeah.
make your money and then exit. What was your what was your learning or inspirations from this chapter group?
Um, I love this chapter because I work for a company and I'm looking to when do we end this, right? So it connects very well with me at least. I don't know how it connected with you when you read it. Um, and there are there's a lot of good stuff to take away from this project, from this chapter. Sorry, make your money and then exit. He talks about he's got very good advice for folks who are entering the corporate world. Right. So do your best work. There is no shortcut to success. Basically, if I were to just summarize that, there is no shortcut to success. And treat your peers, treat your bosses and superiors, whoever is working with you as clients, um, just like how you would treat an external client too. So that's very, very important, and I cannot agree more with the author. And you're building a brand for yourself, and if you do that, there are going to be enough supporters in the company for you to grow faster, and that will also shut down people who are your adversaries. They will think twice before they talk against you, to stop you from succeeding, right? So I that's the biggest takeaway for me, and I would emphasize more on whoever's watching you your channel, that do your best work. Make sure to treat your bosses and your peers as your clients, not just the actual real external clients. That was one big takeaway. He talks about one thing I would like to highlight is never quit your job, get laid off. What he means to say is he's not talking about getting fired or, don't slack off at work. And he's trying to tell the readers of this book saying, you can engineer your layoff and get a good severance package. If you have outgrown the company and if you talk to your boss and say, "Hey, I'm going to pursue a different career and I would like to quit this, and I'm here to talk with you about how you I can help you fill my position and find successors, and for the time I'm going to spend here, it's just not 2 weeks. I'm not going to give you a notice and quit and go and create all this trouble for you as a to your manager when you speak. So instead, strike a deal, or rather it's a very amicable situation where you tell your boss that I'm going to be here, I'm going to help transition, and I'm going to train the new employees and close the gap between you and the new employees and give them the knowledge that I have. And for that, I would like to get a good severance package. This is the first time I'm reading such a thing, and this was such an eye opener for me. I've never tried this out. Maybe I will try in the future. If I were to transition or pivot into a different career, I would I would definitely try this out and tell my boss that, hey, my heart lies somewhere else. I would like to do something like what you're doing on YouTube. If it's big enough and it can pay for my expenses, yeah, why not? Talk to your boss and say, hey, not 2 weeks. I'm going to be here for 2 months or more if you would like. But I would like to get a severance package of about whatever X amount of dollars, which can pay your 2 or 3 years of expense. That was pretty eye-opening for me from this chapter. That was actually the second biggest takeaway. One is do your best work. Second is negotiate with your job with your manager, leaders about getting a severance package. Yeah,
Yeah, on that
but.
severance package, that was the first time I read as well about this concept. And I
Hmm.
was thinking about the downside. Let's say you're my boss, right? I like the upside here, which is, for you, it's easy that I'm helping you to
Hmm.
make the transition easier. But like there could be a significant downside of all of this, right? You could do the transition, um, or you could even get into this conversation and lead to nowhere where they'll be like, hey, no, I'm not giving you any large severance package. You that's your last day, and then you're done. And then that could be, um, but that would be the same base case as like quitting, right? I'm guessing. So there's nothing to
Exactly.
lose here. Is
Exactly. There's nothing to lose. Worst
Yeah,
case, they're gonna say, okay, 2 weeks is fine. You got to leave. But at
yeah,
least you would have tried.
yes.
But one should be smart enough to gauge that situation, right?
Right.
gauge that relationship with your manager, do you have that
Yeah.
credit to speak with your manager that way? Do you have the
Yeah.
clout, right? I mean, if you're not in good terms with your manager and going and asking for 3 years of expense, the severance package, good luck with that. Um,
Exactly.
right?
Cool. So
Um,
yeah, that was a topic that I'm definitely more curious about, to learn and maybe experiment. And as you said,
yeah.
the first part, do your best work. One thing I'd add to it that I really liked that was new was he said this line which says, "You get promoted in a large company through
Hmm.
consensus.
Yep.
Promotion happens through consensus." And I'm like,
Yep.
those four words actually are so true.
Very
And
true.
so what does that imply? You can get promoted if there is enough consensus in that meeting where that decision is being made about your promotion,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there is enough consensus that you are a good person to be
Yeah.
promoted.
Yeah.
So that implies that you don't want to pick battles unnecessarily with people and
Yeah.
spoil your relationship, because you
Yeah.
never know who may not like you.
Yeah.
So that is a big learning. Like once in all kinds of offices, there'll be politics, there'll be people with certain agendas. You want to be very, very mindful who you pick the battle with, because otherwise that person can significantly impact your career and your promotion, or even just
Absolutely.
the pay decisions, all of which is like through consensus. It's no longer one person deciding, right? And so being represented well was equally important, along with doing the best work. So it really struck to me because it was so real, and I'm like, oh, he's just put it in 4 words: promotion happens through consensus. And I'm like, wow.
Absolutely.
So
Isn't
that
that
was,
right,
yeah, it is
Kunal? I mean,
true.
at your company, my company, it's not in my power to promote the team members in my team.
Yeah,
I have to get consensus from my peers and my peers' bosses.
exactly.
Um,
You can
yeah,
represent
it's
them, but
yep,
that's the best you can do as a manager.
that's it.
But there is a lot of things outside your manager's ability. So realizing that as a candidate, as an employee, and then
Yeah,
doing the work to support your manager, and then with building the right relationships with other people that he's
yeah,
going to have to persuade. So you should probably like understand that fact and then build
yeah,
a relationship, because
absolutely.
that was huge. Awesome. So that was the chapter 11. Let's get into chapter 12, which is all about side hustles and
Yeah.
doing something on the side. So Guru, share with us, what did you.
This was very, very motivating for me today. I read this chapter today again. Um, this is so important for all of us, especially in the corporate world, just doing one day job, right? Get something started. Basically, the message from the author is don't wait to start something on the sides. Get your side hustle on as soon as possible in whatever area that you are interested in, right? Everybody has some area of interest, something that they love to do. Let's say gardening. Let's say you keep a fish tank, right? That's your hobby. Um, just start a side hustle around that. Talk about gardening in an efficient way that other people who are into gardening can also pick up from you. Do a YouTube videos on gardening, or how to set up a fish tank, for example, and maybe something else too, right? So basically, he's talking about don't wait until you're an expert. That will be too late, right? I remember a quote from I cannot place who said this, but if you wait for the perfect product to release into the market, you're too late. I think without taking out any company, I think Tesla or Microsoft, they don't wait for the perfect product, right? They take their chances to release their MVP product, right? Most viable product into the market and see how the public receives it and build upon that and make it better. So the point I'm trying to make is don't wait until you're an expert. get going, right? Like how you and I are talking about reviewing a book. I'm not an expert. I'm trying this out, right? So that's a message to the audience who's watching this, right? Um, and then he also talks about, um, create something that builds your brand, which is unique to you, and that somebody can not easily replicate as well, but that's unique to you. Build your brand, like Kunal. Now you have a brand around you, right? It's all about Kunal and what he does, right? So he emphasizes on creating that, um, and then um, so he has a math around how much of your side hustle should pay for your expenses before even you consider quitting your full-time job. I think that's very important. I mean, don't get too motivated once you start making 10% of your gross income. And then like, oh, you know what? This is going to pay for my lifestyle or expenses and quit your job. He has a strong message there, like, no, don't do that. Um,
So
your day job is what is going
what percentage is good then? What I also forget. I remember that, but do you remember that? Like what was his
Yeah,
threshold?
100%, 100% or more. He talks about, okay, if you're at 75%, the income is covering your 75% of your expenses, then that means you're getting there. You're getting there. There are chances of this side hustle being your main hustle, right? So, but then once you hit that 100% or more is when you should actually start investing a lot of time and effort in making that side hustle your main thing, right? So I strongly believe in that. I mean, you cannot take risks just like that. You got to take calculated risks, right? So that's the gist of this chapter. Basically, um, don't wait to be an expert in some areas that you love to do for taking up a side hustle. That's very important. And he also talks about it's never too late. He also explains about somebody who's in their 60s who can do these side hustles because 60, I believe, eventually will be the new 40s because the medical sciences are getting better and we live longer, right? So 60s is also not too late, but he recommends whoever are in their 20s is the best time because time is your wealth at that time, right? You have all the energy, you have all the time. Start a side hustle back then and when you're in 20s, but even 60s or 70s is not too late. Um, and he does talk about how much, let's say, if you start a gig, how much time it may take. In the first year, he gives a chart about maybe you can make from 100 to maybe $1,000 and maybe in 2 years you can make from 1,000 to maybe $10,000, and eventually in the 10th year is when you can probably make 500K to $1 million per year. So that's generally how your side hustle might work and grow if it has a good product, or you have a good platform like yourself, Kunal, that you can leverage on. So yeah, that's chapter 12. Get your side hustle on.
Yep.
Very interesting, very motivating for me. I read it twice.
Are you
And
going to start something, Guru?
I don't know. I really put down something on the paper like these are some of the probabilities that what do I love doing?
What are those things you love doing? This could be your chance to put it out in the world and create something and commit
I
without saying
yeah,
I'm going to try these things.
I love learning about getting better in finances, like financial education. And I absolutely love analyzing stocks, companies, and sometimes they do become multi-baggers, sometimes they are just duds. But I've been doing this for a few years, and I just do it for my own hobby and my own investment purpose. So I was thinking maybe I could leverage that skill that I picked over a few years, and also what we learned from our MBA about analyzing companies. Financial information analysis that you and I took a class on, Kunal. So
That's
these are
right.
some of my interests.
That is so
Um,
cool. So you will go deep into this and then maybe share with the world how you're thinking about a company. Is that what?
hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully, I don't know if I will do it offline and in a
Offline
blog
by that you mean a blog or like what is
or
offline?
a blog as a write something or maybe as actively as you do in put yourself in front of the camera and speak about things.
Yeah.
Maybe it is what it is. Let's see. This
That is
chapter
huge.
was the most motivating for me out of the entire book, if you would ask me.
That is
The
awesome. Yeah.
side hustle on. Yeah, yeah.
Get your side hustle on. Yeah. Using weekend time, not just to recharge, but also to
Yep.
build, get your side hustle on. Yeah, that's huge. And as you said, it takes time. So give it
Takes
time,
time. Takes
and it
time.
takes at least a couple of years before you start to see any money.
Easily.
So
Uh,
it's
yeah.
important to nurture it and do
I
it
think
in the long run.
Yeah, and I think you should not do this for money initially. Forget about the money, right? Whatever you get for maybe $10, $15 initially is nothing. Just forget about, don't even look at the money. Just do it for the love of it, maybe for a couple of years. Maybe it'll pan out, maybe not. Who
Yep,
knows? So just
that's right.
trying. Trying is the most important thing. So don't wait to be an expert in that area. Just try it out. That's
That's
the
right.
message the author gives. Yeah, yeah.
Super. So I will bring up the slides. We will quickly summarize next, so that you can capture if you missed anything and you want to just have a short version in the next 15 minutes, we will just recap some of the key points, right? So we went through these three chapters: think strategically about your career, make your money and then exit, get your side hustle on. So the first chapter was think strategically about your career. We talked about pick an industry that pays you well, build expertise, build deep expertise. I didn't talk about this point about pension, but there's a topic about getting public sector or government jobs which have
Mm-hmm,
pension.
mm-hmm,
You could have double income if you did that. So those 2 points were also there. What I did focus most about was this: start your journey out of college, either in a startup or in a large company, right? So we talked about pros and cons. You may not earn as much as Guru mentioned. Paper money, vaporware is the term he used. I liked it. But at the same time, it's better off if you don't know for sure to have a rule of thumb to go with a large company. And you could join the small company after you've built the skills and you have an ability to negotiate, and which of those 1 out of 10 companies will actually be successful.
mm-hmm.
And I did talk about this, but like if the company refuses to pay market pay, then there are lots of websites out there: Levels, FYI, Glassdoor, LinkedIn. There's lots of places, Indeed, which tell you salary data and compensation, total compensation data. If you don't get paid market, ask yourself a question: are you giving enough value to the company to get paid that much? If you are and they're not paying you well, you should consider leaving, and you should take care of yourself first, right? So that was
Yep.
the thing about maximizing your career. And then we went into the next chapter: make your money and then exit. Guru, you want to take it away for the next 2 chapters?
Yeah, like I said, do your best work. Your managers, your peers, everybody that you work with are your clients. So um, be a likable person so that they can support you and help you grow in the company. Um, I did not speak about being a working parent. So he talks about giving how to conquer guilt as a working parent. And he does put a number on, okay, if you spend more than 120 minutes per day, you can get over that guilt as a working parent that you're not spending enough time with your kids. That I found hard to quantify because it's so subjective. So that's one of the reasons I did not emphasize on that number or bullet point. He also talks about, hey, if you value spending more time with your kids is something that you really want to do, just do it. And you can always go back to the corporate world, and people don't frown upon that because you chose to spend time with your kids for 2 or 3 years. And a lot of people in the corporate world obviously are parents. They will understand, and you should be able to get similar pay, if not more. Yeah, he does encourage you to take a break, if you have to. The most important part, I would say, out of this, second most important. First is to do your best work is the most important part. Second most important part is never quit your job, get laid off. So if you have done well, if you have hit a glass ceiling and your heart lies somewhere else, you want to do something else, pivot in your career, he talks about ways to get laid off, and I did speak about it a little bit in our session. So that was pretty interesting. And last but not the least is build relationship across the company by talking to leaders. It is again goes back to the first point here in the slide. Treat everybody you work with as clients and be aware of your brand and build relationships across the company, especially if you have to talk to your boss's bosses and their peers. So that's the takeaway for me, and that's how I would summarize, Kunal. Yeah. So yeah, this is, like I said, the most motivating chapter of this book. Get your side hustle on. Um, So, yeah, the first point, yeah, so, well, again, I would like to emphasize, starting off with the second bullet point, don't wait until you are an expert. Start something already. It's okay. And you won't realize you have enough time, you have enough free time that you spend watching maybe few shows that you might not have watched on Netflix or Amazon Prime. If you sum up all those hours, he does put like 700 hours per year, which you could leverage. Even half of it, think about it, 350 hours. What you could do for your side hustle, right? So don't wait, just take action and start doing something. Um, and he talks about again going to the first point. I'm moving around randomly. Don't mind. The first bullet point here on the slide is job security is a thing of the past. I cannot agree more than that. Now, my parents had a different lifestyle and their job security was very different compared to what we experience these days, right? They used to stay in the same job for about 25, 30 years. I think my dad did one job throughout his career. That's not the case with me. I've jumped around. I've done job hopping. It's the job security is thing of past, absolutely. So that's another emphasis is that you got to get your side hustle on because you never know when the layoff emails will come. So if you have your side hustle going, then at least that's a comforting thing. Um, and he also talks about in the coming to the third bullet point, once your side income can cover your basic living expenses, you have the potential, not not the green light yet. You have the potential to leave your job. You never know. Maybe this, I would like to emphasize on this a little bit more. So let's say 2020 and 2021 were bull years, right? So maybe your hustle picked up and then it started covering your 100% of your living expense. And you got motivated by that and you quit your day job. Now, come 2022, what happens if you get into a bear market and the economy goes down and your side hustle is not paying for it anymore, right? So you got to be careful a little bit more. Watch it for maybe few couple of years, maybe a year or two, and then quit your day job, right? So again, you can see in the third bullet, give it at least 2 years to think about whether you can quit or not. And coming to the fourth bullet point is that startup is it can look cool, um, and it's not in reality it doesn't pay as much as you think it will. The moonshot that you hope that your startup will hit is probably 10%, right? Probability. So be careful with startups and unless you are, like I said previously, Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or Elon Musk, who definitely know what they want to do, startup is generally not, I wouldn't recommend. a lot of Silicon Valley folks will disagree with what probably I'm saying and what the author says, but um, yeah, it's just my opinion. Um, and weekend is the time where you can take the time to build what you love as a side hustle, right? Spend those weekends in building something that you want to. Yeah, yeah,
That's
that's the
awesome.
summary. Yeah,
And then on that point that Guru you shared, right? Don't wait until you're an expert and start something on the side. And you said, hey, even if you can do like 2 hours a day, it's
yeah,
great. So there was this video that I came across that I found really powerful.
yeah,
A 10-minute video by Monish Pabrai. And he
yeah.
talks about like power of starting a business part-time.
Concluding thought is my emphasis on start something, don't wait
Yep.
on your side hustle. Everybody loves something to do as a hobby. Just
Yep.
start doing it. Maybe it will materialize, maybe not. What's the worst case scenario? You'll
Exactly.
still like what you're doing, but it won't get paid for, but it's fine,
Yep.
right?
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone.